Gamers, this is a slightly different build than the ones we've released previously. So we've had some mostly meta DD characters that we can use in all content, vet end game and things like that. This is sort of a bit more of a fun character. Still perfectly capable, but you would not be using this in vet trials and things like that. So this is going to be a Templar tank healer hybrid, designed to be as effective as it can be at both roles simultaneously. So you can use this in normal dungeons, vet dungeons, and even some vet DLC dungeons, but you will reach a ceiling where this won't perform to the best of its abilities, and you won't have many trial leads that'll be happy to have you bring this along. We'll be looking at multiple gear setups, including one with no trial gear whatsoever. We'll be looking at what buffs we can bring, a full heal setup and a bit of a mix of both, how we proc those buffs, how we can make use of it, and how to get the most out of this character. So let's have a look. So first let's look at our stats, consumables, MUNDUS, things like that. So with this being a tank character, we're going to have to move our attributes about depending on the gear that we've got. So my stats here are going to change depending on the sets that I've got, the enchants that I've got, but you want to make sure you've got roughly 40k health, give or take, and that you've got more stamina than Magicka, so that when you claim synergies in content, you're getting stamina back for blocking and things like that. As long as you're at a pool you're comfortable with, as long as the stamina is higher than Magicka, that's all that matters. We're using the Ritual Mundus Stone to buff our healing. We've got plenty of resistances and things like that, so we ain't got to worry about that. And we're using Tristat food, so max health and max mag and stam food. It says 0 there, but that's a UI bug. We're actually using Long Thing Pasty with melon sauce here, but anything that gives you Tristat will be perfectly fine. We're using Crown Tri-Restoration pots in this case, so any Tristat pot to give us all 3 of our resource pools back, as well as the associated recoveries that go with it. And for the race, I have picked Argonian, partly because obviously buffs our healing, gives us some extra health and also extra mag and stam, plus the boost every time we drink a potion where we get extra resources for each pool. Sustain isn't the greatest on this with certain setups, so that's like a really useful sort of buff to have, where every time we drink a pot, we're getting a little bit more of those pools back to make sure we don't run out of stam and end up big dead. For our first setup, providing buffs and heals, we're going to be running as our monster set, Magma Incarnate from Vet Dreadseller. So every time we heal ourselves or a group member with a single target heal, we provide us and then subsequently 3 more targets with Minor Resolve to increase their survivability and Minor Courage, both in their weapon and spell damage. Handy in dungeon groups because obviously you've got a 4-man limit and it bounces between them. To proc this really easily, we can cast Alter to drop our health and then cast our Rune down, and as that's a single target heal just for us, we can see here it procs the Minor Courage. Super easy to proc in content even without trying to heal anyone else, buffing everyone's damage. Now as well as that, we're going to be using the Imperium set on the body. That's full sturdy, just to help with our block cost. We get this from Vet White Gold Tower, and this gives everyone in our group a big fat shield every time we take damage. Now if we're doing our job right and we're taunting stuff, we should be getting hit, and therefore we're providing a lot of survivability to the group. We can have this in place of some other popular tank sets because we're giving that Minor Courage through the helmet. Now we've also got Olorime on the back bar. We've only backbarred this, and when we cast an area of effect skill, while we're in combat, we leave a circle on the ground. So if I whack this Ogrim and then cast Luminous Shards on my back bar, we can see this circle of power appears. And whenever someone stands in that, they get Major Courage, again, buffing their damage. Now we've put on the front bar an arena set, such as the Master's Sword and Shield. This heals us and gives us resistances every time we taunt. Decisive front hand sturdy shield. But we can also use the Vateshran set as well. And instead of healing us, this means every time we cast Power Bash, we get everything dragged into us, helping us group adds, which is something that this Templar tank does struggle with. We'd have to replace a front bar skill with Power Bash to make sure we can proc it, but that will allow us better sort of chaining and grouping compared to the normal setup. So something to consider if you are going to use that. So for the full buff setup, we're going to take all of our heals off of our gear. So we're going to keep Olorime on the back bar to provide our Major Courage to the group and using the Luminous Shards. We're going to abandon Magma Incarnate in place of another monster set because we're going to get our Minor Courage instead from a different set from Veteran or normal Sunspire, Yolnahkriin. So I've got Perfected here, but normal's fine too. Again, full sturdy. And here, every time we taunt an enemy, we're providing Minor Courage to the group. This is a bit more handy if you're in a trial scenario, which you probably wouldn't be, but you never know, because it has a 12-man cap. So we get the major courage there and the minor courage from Yolnahkriin. Now, instead of Magma Incarnate, here we can use Earthgore, for example, to give us at least some healing, where every time we heal a target under 50% health, we obviously let blood rain from the sky, which is badass as hell, and heal our group. Or we could also put on from Black Drake Villa, Encratis. In that case, you'd run a flame glyph on your front bar, flame enchant. And here we'd buff all of our group's flame damage. So in a predominantly mag group, you're going to get a big damage buff from that. Most trial tanks will have that set up anyway. You could also, if you don't want to use Earthgore, replace that for Symphony of Blades from Vet Depths of Malatar to give a bit more sustain to your group instead of damage. In case they're struggling with sustain, if they're running bar, say, really, really low or something like that, that can be a handy one to have as well. So that setup would give us major and minor courage, depending on the monster set choice, either buff their damage highly or give them a little bit of a heal instead. Now finally, we do have a setup for if you don't want to run trials, can't get into 12-man content, you think they're shit and you hate them. This is a setup that's entirely made up of content from 4-man dungeons that can all be ran on normal, except for the monster helm, which you will have to do on vet, and from guild traders and or PvP Citadel. So we've still got Magma Incarnate from Vet Dreadseller, providing our minor courage and our minor resolve to the group to buff their damage. I still got Brands of Imperium on the body from White Gold Tower, providing these shields and protection. Then we've got Amulet's Mercy. This can be bought on guild traders or acquired from coffers from doing quests in Citadel in one of the 3 towns. I can't remember which one it is. But when we take damage, we heal the group. So this provides a bit more healing to everyone, just for you getting hit, which you will if you're doing your job as a tank. It is a light set, so we will have to run this on the weapons and jewels rather than on the body. But it is a bit of utility that can be acquired really, really cheap and easy. Now, this is all off trait and crap, because I've just bought it dead quick to demonstrate for this video. But ideally, you'd have all spell damage on the jewels, as we did with the other setups, to buff our heals. Whatever trait that you like on the jewels, whatever makes you more comfortable. And then we'd have a decisive front bar and a sturdy shield to reduce the block cost. Lots of utility here. Anything you'd have to run on vet is Dreadseller to get the monster helm, so you can find some help with that. But this can be built with literally 0 12-man content. You could never set foot in a trial and set this last setup up here. So let's take a look at the skills. On our front bar, we've got Overflow and Altar. Putting this down puts minor lifesteal on all the enemies in the area, so as your teammates attack them, they will get a slight small heal back. It also puts down a synergy they can take every 20 seconds. They'll give them a big burst heal that can crit. And it also drops our health a little bit, so that we can use this to proc our Magma Incarnate using Restore and Focus, which is our physical and spell resistance buff, as well as our single target heal that we'll use when combined with Overflow and Altar to proc Magma Incarnate to give the group minor courage and minor resolve. You want to keep Restore and Focus down the whole time and standing it as much as you can. Pierce Armor is our taunt, puts breach on the enemy, keep that up the whole time. Extended Ritual will give us a big area coverage heal over time, and also allows your teammates to synergize to purify any negative effects and give you a big burst heal as well. You want to keep that down as much as you can, because for spell damage it gives you quite a meaty tick that can be useful in content. We've then got Repentance that we can cast to heal ourselves. It also provides stamina back as a big sustain tool. As adds die, you sort of suck up their souls, but you will replace that with Power Bash if you're using the Vateshran board instead of a standard front bar from Amulet's Mercy or the Master's Sword and board. So that will be the skill that you'll probably swap out. Reviving Barrier is one of our ultimates we can use to give major survivability to our group. Gives them a big old shield and the heal that goes with it. This won't be our main sort of ultimate that we'd cast, but it is something that can keep folk alive. On the back bar, we've got Luminous Shards, provides synergies to the group that allow them to get resources back, and also procs out Olorime by leaving an area on the ground. Energy Orb is our other synergy from the Undaunted skill line. It gives a really powerful healing tick, which gets underestimated quite a lot. And also another synergy, but do bear in mind these two share a cooldown, so don't go spamming both of them expecting all your resources to come back. Inner Range is our Raise Taunt. Breath of Life is a big burst heal we can use as like an oh shit button should we need it to keep folk up. Blockade of Frost is our only chance at immobilising enemies really, and keeps our weapon glyph down off of our back bar. And then for our main ultimate, we're going to be using aggressive Warhorn from the assault skill line gives major force and extra resources as well. This is the ultimate you want to cast more than barrier if you can help it, to boost the damage of your group as much as you possibly can, to keep that DPS ticking on top of all the buffs that you're providing as well. So let's take a look at the champion points. So we've got a couple of different options we can choose here in the blue and green trees, depending on what our main focus is going to be. In the green tree for our slot spools, we've gone for Treasure Hunter to give us just better drops out of the chests in dungeons, Rationer to make food last a little bit longer, Liquid Efficiency to try and make sure we don't run out of pots and to lower our pot bill, and Steve's Blessing to improve our speed, because obviously being a tank, we're a bit slow, and allow us to sort of keep up and get through those dungeons a bit quicker. For the blue tree, we've got a couple of options. So we can see here we've got Soothing Tide to buff our AoE heals in order to buff Extended Ritual. We've also got Swift Renewal to buff our Healing Done with Healing Over Time effects, because a lot of our heals are HOTs, heal over times, so give them a bit more clout. We've got Duelist for a buff to reduce our damage from single target attacks, and Unassailable to reduce our AoE damage taken. On the red tree, we've gone for Brace and Anchor. That would be 50 out of 50 ideally. I've messed up somewhere. Let's just chuck some points into that so we can actually see the full bonus. There we go, that's a bit better. So Brace and Anchor, get rid of that stupid glitch. Come back, thank you. Brace and Anchor. Extra block mitigation when you're in combat. Slows you down a bit. No big you're in combat. It's not normally a lot of running around to doing dungeons anyway, but it gives us extra block mitigation, which is nice and keeps us alive, which is always a bonus. As well as this, you've got Rejuvenation to aid our recoveries, Fortified to give us a bit more armor, and Boundless Vitality to increase our max health as well. Now, we can have a bit of flex when it comes to the blue tree, so we could take one of the healing ones off, throw an Endure and Resolve if we are struggling to stay up. And that is the build, something a little bit different. Not so endgame, not so sweaty, but Elder Scrolls isn't just about doing vet trials and trying to get scores and titles and sweating your bollocks off. Sometimes you want to have a bit of fun. And this hopefully was a class that can give you a bit of enjoyment, especially if you've never played a support before, or you've played tanks and you're sick of using all these meta setups and trying to keep staying giant up and sweating your balls off. And we're trying something a little bit different. Don't take this super seriously. Again, don't go taking this into Extinguisher of Flames and getting mad at me in the comments because you died to a dragon that's clapped your cheeks. This isn't built for that. But if you do have any genuine suggestions for stuff you could use in dungeons to make this a bit more enjoyable, please do let me know in the comments. I'm super intrigued to hear what people think. And your feedback's always welcome, especially over on Reddit. Some of you guys over on Reddit are killing it. And to all my good mates in Asylum, Order of the Jedi, Trailblazers, guys like Atosh and Unchained. They've been super supportive so far. Only 5% of my viewers are subscribed at any one time, and I've been getting some big fat views. So if you haven't subscribed, please do consider subscribing, throwing it a like. I'm actually coming up in the searches now and suggested videos for people like Nefas and stuff and Skinny Cheeks, which is mental because I'm editing this on my phone. I ain't really got a clue what I'm doing. But all your support is super appreciated. And until next time, thank you very much.